signs that you might be caring a little bit too much about what other people think. So always struggling, always self-compassion. So on any growth journey, it is checking how you're speaking to yourself. That is the first place to go, really. Like, just self-validation is a massive thing. So to move away from being validated by others, we still want validation. So we have to give it to ourselves. So celebrating those wins, every little win.
So that's it. Like, that's
task.
Yeah.
So key signs that you might be caring a little bit too much about what other people think. So struggling to say no. We talk about this a lot with people pleasing. So if you're overcommitting to things, or you feel guilty about setting boundaries because you can't say no to something because you don't want to disappoint somebody. I used to do this a lot. Over analyzing social interactions. So after you've had the interaction, you go away and you have a good long think and replay the conversation and probably remember it wrongly and add a few more extra looks of disapproval or whatever, and go over and over and over it. So if you're somebody that walks away from a conversation and goes, oh, I hope they don't think I meant this, then perhaps you are caring a little bit too much what people might think. Also reading emails or text messages, and facial expressions, and really
Sorry, you're reminding me of text messages. You're like literally reading the text message. You're like, that letter is wrong. And you get really triggered by the wording of it. But if you went back an hour later when you were calm, you'd be like, oh, yeah, I was wrong.
Yeah. So, yeah, not letting things be and playing back over them. And often the more we play over them, if we, like I used to be, had very a negative outlook on life, we will color that even more. The more we think about it, the worse we get. It's actually proven that a lot of our memories are not accurate, and the more that we keep taking them from the past and having a look at them with our view of them. So if we think, oh, that was a terrible thing that happens, we can make them worse and then put them back in our memory. And every time we get them out, we can make them worse by our view of life. So that's why when we're coaching, we do go back, but coaching is more about, now we're powerful. What can we do now? Isn't it? If you change yourself to fit in. So if you're somebody who, I'm terrible for picking up other people's accents, actually.
I love doing that though. Like I think people probably think I'm taking the piss, like. But even in Ireland is such a tiny island, but there's different accents everywhere. Even like the Cork accent, the Dublin accent, all that. You know what I mean? So like, it sounds like we're taking the piss, but it's just like we're joining in. That's fun.
There's an element of mirroring. So mirroring is a sign of rapport. So if you're into what somebody is talking about or interested in what they have to say, you will mirror. So if they scratch their head, you're likely to scratch your head. It's a subconscious thing to show that you're engaged. You mirror them. So that's why we take on their accents sometimes. So I can be terrible for that. But if you're changing yourself to fit in your behaviours, so you pretend to like something that you don't like, or you won't mention something that you do like.
Yeah, the Justin Bieber thing. Like years ago, I would have kept certain things to myself because I would have been afraid to be judged. And if I'd have said to my friends I liked the Justin Bieber song, they would have taken the piss out of me. But now I don't care. I think Justin Bieber is hot. I don't care what you think.
And I also had a problem with this, feeling crushed by criticism. So no matter how many positives, or you focus on that negative, get quite defensive about it and can't take it as feedback. If you can't take it as feedback and go, actually, there might be an element of truth in that. Or maybe you don't agree with that, but that's interesting. Why might they think that about, if you're taking it as a lesson, then that's great. But often we can't. Often we get defensive. Oh no, it wasn't like that. Or they're saying that because they don't like me. Or they're saying that because they're not good at that.
Yeah, you're
So
actually reminding me of something. I used to get very triggered if somebody accused me of something I didn't do. And you know the way people do get defensive when they're actually guilty?
yeah,
I used to get defensive because I used to get so upset that people would think bad of me when it really wasn't true.
yeah,
I'm over that now because I obviously don't care what people think now. But when it was a lie, it was like, fuck, no, it's not right, it's not real, you know what I mean? And I'd be black and blue in the face kind of going, please believe the truth. Now I'm like, look, say what you want, I don't care.
yeah.
Because
What I used to do is I used to do a bit of the analyzing social interaction. So I'd send something or an email or whatever, and I think this person didn't like me. And then I was like, ooh, I hope they didn't think that I meant this by it. So then I would try and fix it. And in fixing it, I actually made it worse because they probably were like, what is she on about? Do you know what I mean? So sometimes we can dig ourselves a hole, can't we? It's like that self-fulfilling prophecy, actually, isn't it? You end up creating a problem where there wasn't one.
yeah.
Feeling embarrassed, fear of embarrassment more than growth. So there's things you would want to do or you want to grow, but you're not willing to put that tracksuit out on and jog down the street or try a new sport or admit that you would do some meditation or, is that once again trying to hide the things or just not trying them at all because you're worried that people will view that a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't want to admit that they want to change, do they? So showing that you're making changes in your life can create fear of what people might think. So seeking constant reassurance is another one. I still do this when I said this last week, didn't I? When I put the meal in front of the kids, I'm like, is that all right for you? I'm like, I should just go, well done, Carol, and just put it in front of them. But I don't. I'm like, they'd start eating it. I'm like, is that all right for you? So yeah, if you can't, if you're always like, was that all right? Is that good enough? Questioning if you've made the right decision, and wanting others to define your worth or your mood being dependent on how other people view you. So when people are like, oh, you're great, you're like, yay, I'm the top of the world. But then if other people are like, I don't really agree with you, you hit a real low just because they don't agree with your opinion or your idea. So there's some key signs. Practical strategies for building self-worth and letting go of other people's opinions. So the problem is that the validation is outside of us. That if we're worried about what people think, that's because we get our validation from outside of us. We get them from things, we get them from status, we get them from certificates, we get them from the size of our house, our car, our partner, or things that people say to us. So it's understanding that you are already worthy and building on that, and being guided by that.
And
So
that's
practical
the thing.
strategies. Go on.
Yeah, just before we go on there, like that brings us back to the inner child again.
Yeah.
That unworthiness does stem from the inner child, and it is in validating them that we can validate ourselves. So we can actually start to, I suppose, own our own authenticity, own our own self, own our own shadow when we learn to love our inner child. Because, when you love your inner child, you end up loving yourself. So therefore you don't care what other people think. So it kind of does all start within. It really does.
Yeah. And always self-compassion. So on any growth journey, it is checking how you're speaking to yourself. That is the first place to go, really. Like just bringing awareness of how you speak to yourself and how you view your mistakes, because people don't spend a lot of time thinking about you. I know we can be quite egocentric and think that lots of people have an opinion and think about, and they might have an opinion, but they probably don't spend a lot of time thinking about it, and certainly not as long as you probably do. It might be a fleeting thought that they might have, and we need to remember that opinions are just perspective. So they're not based in fact, you know, they're from often looking at you from their own level of wounding or their own
But
triggers.
that's it. You know, people only judge or speak ill of other people when they're coming from a place of their own insecurities. Do you know what I mean? So, like, you know, and especially a lot of the time, like, I suppose, because of toxic relationships, we tend to believe the negative that people say to us. But it is a reflection of their own wounding.
Yeah.
So we have to understand that a person is only hurt people. We've said this before. Do you know what I mean? So you see it like that. See it that they're not actually, they just don't have the level of awareness to be better people right now.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, that actually people who, if you're making changes and people are not supportive of that, and want to tear it down and say that's not going to work or that's a stupid idea, often I mean, sometimes your idea might be flawed, but most of the time people who are doing that are doing it because from their own level of wounding. So they're looking and going, well, that's not possible for me.
Yeah.
So how's that possible for you?
Exactly.
And they're not doing it maliciously often.
It's,
you know, it might.
It's an unconscious bitterness, I think.
Yeah.
You know, people that aren't ready to evolve or aren't ready to change, they're going to shit all over your dreams because they're triggered by the fact that they can't do it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not getting angry with those people. It's having compassion that they're not ready to sort their own shit out. That's one way to look at it, isn't it? You know, but
exactly.
You're only really responsible for you and maybe your children if you have them, or your fur babies. But you're only really responsible for you. You only really have control over you. You're the only person that you can control. And so that's where your energy should be, you know. And yeah, so some practical strategies is, like we said, mindset shifts. So recognizing that people's opinions, and bear in mind, you know, often we don't even know what the person's opinion is. They're just projected opinions based on what we think they think. You know, we're not mind readers. You know, sometimes we think we are, but we're not. And that even if you are aware that it is their opinion, it is just their perspective, and you can be self-guided as to whether that is fact or not. Yeah,
that's it. And you can only be hurt by somebody based on your own level of wounding. So bring that back again. You know, somebody's words can't hurt you if you've healed yourself. You know what I mean? It's that simple. You know, you won't take it. Like, if you're still unhealed or still feeling that unworthiness, you're going to take on every single thing that somebody says. But when you evolve and grow into your authenticity, it just goes over your head because you know it's not true.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, haven't we? Where, you know, if somebody says something, say somebody thinks I'm a rubbish teacher, for example, right? The only time that would upset me was if I believed it. Because otherwise I'd be like, what's wrong with them? What are they on about? What, they're having a bad day, wouldn't you? Like, why would they say something like that? Would be your response. You know, I'm going to give them a wide berth. They're not being very kind today, you might think. But I wouldn't be wounded by it. You're only wounded by it if there is an element of you that believes that. Or if you trust their opinion more than your own. And there are times when other people's opinions might matter more than yours. For example, in karate, my opinion of what my kick is like is not as good an opinion as what my sensei's is, because he's much more you know, he knows what he's talking about more than I do. And so there are times that when we have to take that feedback humbly.
But feedback helps us grow, and that's the thing. When you see it as feedback rather than criticism, that's actually constructive criticism. Do you know what I mean? It's positive reinforcement in a sense, because you're knowing what to do to be better. Do you know, I'm like, you know, and you just reminded me there, like, can you imagine, like, you said, say, telling you bad kick, you're like, fuck off, fuck you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You're like, you know, you're the one that doesn't know, like, you know, so you have to understand this, you know, to take on board something if it's going to be helpful, or, you know, understand whether it's there's truth or whether it's false.
Yeah, so stop trying to guess other people's opinions. It would be a good place to start. But if you are aware of somebody's opinion, you are 100% sure maybe they've said it to you or whatever, I would be very careful of listening to what other people have said that other people have said, like Chinese whispers. But if somebody has actually given you their opinion, recognize that it's a perspective, and then ask yourself the question: is that true? Is that based in truth, or is that just a perspective? What do you think? What's your opinion on that? Is there a reason that their opinion might trump yours? And then you can, if it is something that is based in truth, if it is something that, or is coming from somebody who's more experienced than you and might know more than you, then it's feedback to help you grow is the way to view it. And what you have to do then is be compassionate to yourself. Understand that, well, they've got more experience than me. They've been doing it longer. I appreciate that they're helping me to improve and get to where they are. It's how you view things.
I used to actually be really triggered by people helping me or showing me how to do something. I'd be like, fuck, I know how to do it quick. And then when I started to become self-aware and evolve and heal, it was like, hold on now a second. This person has done it longer than I have. So maybe if I listened for a second, I'd be able to do it better than I can do now. And that's why that's the understanding of whether, like, you know, I suppose before with my level of wounding, it's not, I took it as an insult to be shown how to do something. Whereas now I actually see it, hey, this person is trying to help me make this easier for myself.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the funny part of it. It's literally I got triggered by people trying to help me before. It's like, I know everything. And it's just like, no, that was because I was wounded and I felt it was an insult.
Yeah. So another one, and we talk about this a lot as well, and you've already mentioned it, is self-awareness. So thinking about when you are doing something or saying something or making a decision, are you acting out of fear of judgment? Like, always question that. It's like, particularly if you're shying away from something or choosing not to say something, why is it that you're choosing? Is it because it's inappropriate to say it at that point? Or is it because you're fearful of how it might be received? So it's being aware of your thought patterns and being aware of how you react when somebody criticizes you, gives you feedback, all of that kind of stuff. And we talk about journaling just because it's, I mean, you verbally journal, don't you? You have a, which you can also do. But if you're new to it, just starting to note down patterns of times and things when you fear judgment, or you decide not to speak out, and just trying to unpack that. Sometimes when we get it on paper and have a look at it, we can see how silly it is. You know, it's different when it's on paper. It's different when it's in front of you and not in your head. Self-validation is a massive thing. So to move away from being validated by others, we still want validation. So we have to give it to ourselves. So celebrating those wins, every little win.
We've been led to believe that praising ourselves is vain, that we're not allowed to self-praise, we're not allowed to self-honor, we're not allowed to have pride. But that's how we move forward. As you're saying there, you need to celebrate yourself. And that is how we learn to become, I suppose, more confident in ourselves. Is on like measuring. I mean, right? That's a way of journaling, actually. Measure your wins.
Yeah.
Measure your achievements. Measure how far you've come. Because when it's not on paper, you're like, oh, I didn't do much. But literally, write down a few things that you did the last month.
Yeah.
So, or the last year. Oh, 10. Yeah. So 10 years. Like, where were you 10 years ago? Where were you 5 years ago? Where were you a year ago? Where were you a month ago? That will give you the validation you need, and that will give you the reason to be proud of yourself. And don't be ashamed of being proud of yourself either.
Yeah, definitely. So affirmations and visualization can really help. So seeing yourself as a confident person, seeing yourself as a person who believes in themselves or can make decisions snappily with confidence. And what we have to remember when we're making decisions is, you know, it's not about the right decision. It's not about right and wrong. That's often where we get stuck. As a people pleaser, that's where I got stuck. I wanted to make the right decision. I wanted to say the right thing. move away from right and wrong. There's just things. There are just choices, you know? And once we make one choice, we don't know if the other one was the right one because we can't go back in time and change it. So it's having a think and making decisions quickly and not overthinking them, because that when we give space for too much thinking, that's when the negative thoughts come in, the self-doubt comes in. It's like, I'm going to make this decision, I'm going to roll with it, and I'm going to make it work. You know?
Yeah, but that's it. And you said right and wrong there, and I understand it doesn't have to be right or wrong, but if it feels right for you,
Yeah, exactly.
what feels comfortable for you, that's the most important thing. It's not about what other people think. What do you feel like in the moment? If you need to own your voice, if you need to speak up, that's what you need to do in the moment. So that is the right decision, really. It's the right decision for you. Don't care about the external. It's how you feel in that moment. That's how you should express yourself.
Yeah. And start small. So if you're at the beginning of the journey of moving away from people pleasing or worrying about other people think, it's doing small things. So small acts of defiance. So I don't mean like go and do something terrible, but like in a situation where perhaps you may have not spoken out. So let's say in a staff meeting or something, you would tend not to say anything. Make the choice that you are just going to contribute one thing, and it doesn't have to be groundbreaking. It just needs to be something. It just needs to be you using your voice. And then the more that you use your voice and realize that nothing bad happened, you're going to start building up the experience, the positive experiences, to build the confidence to say more and be able to be even more authentic.
Yeah, that actually reminds me, I was doing webinars and stuff before I ever went on doing my own videos. And, even on a Zoom webinar, you're like, oh my God, what do I look like? So this is before I got used to the camera, and I was still very shy. And I was doing these webinars, and there was a question and answer at the end of each one, and I was like, or I might type something in the chat. But I swore to myself the next time I had a webinar, I said, I don't care. I'm going to ask a question. I don't know what the question is going to be. I'm just going to do it. And I asked the question. I put my hand up first and everything. I was like, the first one called. I was like, oh my God, I'm so scared. And I did it. And yes, I was shaking the whole way through, as I was the first time I recorded the video. But I felt better afterwards because I did own my voice. And you know what? Nothing bad did happen. This is the whole thing of standing up in class or reading out loud even when you're in school. It's like, oh my God, everyone's looking at me. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, they're going to judge me. And nothing actually bad happens. Nothing bad happens. And you actually gain more confidence because you did that. Now I love speaking on webinars or, speaking on videos now. And it is just push yourself through it because nothing bad does happen.
Absolutely. Yeah.